Good morning, dolls, and welcome to Little Gretchen's Workshop. So I have a very special unboxing today. Before I get to the other part of the featured video, this box came as a surprise to me from one of my precious dolls named Whitney. She had so many wonderful things in here, some things for the children, some things for the wedding, and I just want to show you some of the things that I got. I truly could see her creativity because all of the things she sent me were things that only a person with a developed miniaturist eye would have seen the value in. I love it that she sent these tiny wooden blocks because they'll be perfect for making little blocks for the children. She even sent me some little Christmas lamps that definitely would be great for making bottles or even creating a chandelier. She also sent quite a few sewing and fabric supplies, but when I saw this, I immediately thought of pillowcases. I love that she sent such a broad variety of things. This is a little chain I could use for the purses or for a necklace. She even sent some tiny potted plants that she had made. I truly love these because this looks like some of the things I used to make when I was younger. She used flowers to make potted plants by putting them inside of little beads. I love that she used beautiful pink, yellow, and blue flowers. These are perfect for the spring. And then inside another blue box was a fresh supply of what are you keeping that for? To me, it's always exciting getting other people's what are you keeping that for stashes because everybody collects a different assortment of things. Now, these look like little pieces to what may have been some type of necklace, and the tiny cup pieces look like they are some type of brass. But look at all of these. This is so wonderful, Whitney. I sure do appreciate every single thing. I just love your collection. I love what you selected, and I'm just so appreciative that you wanted to share with me. Now, as a part of the note, she mentioned that she had some buttons and things that look like meringue and things for cakes and pies. And this also looks like there's some supplies for the wedding. And I just got so tickled that this is like a cake, and she used some floral trim to go around it to make it look like icing, which was similar to what I did when I was making the cakes for the wedding cake. In the note, she also mentioned that she liked to save the gold foil that comes off of chocolate coins to use as the covering for her plates under her cakes. I think that's really cute and makes it look really realistic. I think that's so clever. I really appreciate that little tip because that is genius. And she even sent me some little extra pieces. And then there's a silver one. That's cute. And then here's the button that looks like meringue, and she's used it inside of a bottle cap. Now that's really creative. She also mentioned that she had this care package already bundled up when she saw me use trims and bottle caps to make cakes. It's really exciting to see somebody else do what you do and they didn't know you did it. Let me put these away. Then I looked and saw these lovely flowers that I could use for the wedding and some vining for the trellis. And she really packed this box with a bundle of all kinds of useful supplies. And I truly love that she gave me the permission to share these items and do with them what I please. So I will be looking for opportunities to share and distribute. Now, this piece, she suggested it might be good as a grand chandelier. Yes, that would be quite a chandelier. It would probably be a little bit better for Barbie scale. Now, these next items look incredibly realistic. I'm not sure what they were really intended to be, but she thought that they would look good as bases for barber chairs for when the men open the barber shop and Sadi finishes barber school. Whitney C., are you trying to rewrite my story? But they really do look like the bases of barber or beauty shop chairs. Now, when I first opened this box, I wasn't sure what they were, and then I realized that they were bingo chips. It was a lot of bingo chips. It's definitely enough of these to share. And then I opened a box, and it was full of hats. And she even included a whole lot of tiny tags. I just love how specific and thoughtful all of these lovely gifts are. I'm so excited I can't wait to sit down and sort everything and find the perfect place among the houses. And these are so cute. You can always use a couple extra straw hats. For some reason, I always think those look really pretty on little girls. Probably because when I was a little girl, Easter hats were always straw. I really love this beautiful blue. It almost looks a little purple. I can't wait to decorate that. So let me stop and get to the next item. And here are these wonderful beads. Then I opened a box that had a lot of wedding supplies inside, including a clear bobbin that looks like a cake stand. And this is a wonderful assortment of trims and little extras that'll really come in handy when I start decorating. So let me go ahead and put these items aside so they'll be ready when it's time for me to prepare things for the decorations for the wedding. Wow, dolls, look at this, a whole bag of trim. For some reason, this reminds me of the movie Goldilocks. It almost looks like golden curls, but it could definitely be used as scroll work on wood. Now, in this box, she had some pleated material, and she said maybe it would work as that pleated skirting that goes around the long buffet tables. I can definitely see her idea with this. And then she included all sorts of wire, and it came in several different colors, and I think it's the perfect size or scale if you're trying to do cords to make things look like they're electric, and even more wire. So there's definitely enough to share. And she also included some drapery hooks. For some reason, this looks like one of those ironing boards for sleeves. If anyone has a suggestion for the drapery hook, let me know in the comments. Now, when I first opened this box, it kind of scared me because it reminded me of ammo. But then I realized that they were volts. Not really sure how I'd use them. And if anybody has any suggestions, let me know. Now, when I opened this little bag, I was really tickled because there are all types of little beaded findings that will be great for decorating for the wedding. And they're the perfect size. I think they look like brooches. Then I looked a little further in the bag, and there were all types of wedding supplies, a little cherubs, and several other little beaded pearl findings. So I definitely will be able to use all of this. Now, as I was opening this package, I couldn't help but think, I'm keeping this ribbon. This is beautiful. That's one thing you can never have too much of, some beautiful tiny ribbon, regardless the color. Oh, wow, look at all these trims. Now, these are seam bindings and iron-on tape and some beautiful roses in all different colors. Now, I have some that's like a peach color, but this is pink and purple and lavender. These always come in handy. I love these little embroidered roses. So thank you so much, Whitney. I love things like this. I have all kinds of clothes and things to make for the inside of the dress shop and a few more things for the rooming house. So this is perfect. Then I reached in and found these label holders and thought they would be perfect as picture frames. I'm really excited about the shapes, the narrow or slender shapes of these, because I think they'll add a lot of variety to my collection of picture frames. A lot of the ones I have right now are very ornate and fancy, so these simpler, plainer ones will really be a nice addition. I opened a few of these little envelopes, and they've got glass circles in them. These would be great as tabletops, or if you were trying to make a more modern house and you had round windows in the house. There's so many things you can do with something like this. So I really definitely, she gave me quite a few, so there is enough to share. Now I pulled this out first and almost forgot to show it, but it's this really nice piece of cork. She says it makes a great graham cracker crust for her dollhouse cheesecakes. Now, dolls, I am truly amused by these little bases for the barbershop chairs. They're really working on my mind as far as ideas for that project, but I need to put them away and stop and go on to the next part of this video. In the last episode of What's Happening Among the Dolls, Marguerite was feeling very regretful that she had told Sadi that she wanted to postpone the wedding for a few months, especially when she woke up the next morning and he was gone, and he hadn't mentioned that he was leaving, and there was no word of when he would return. At this point, Marguerite's true feelings began to come to the surface. She really didn't want to imagine her life without him. What Marguerite didn't know is that Sadi actually had left word as to where he was going and when he was coming back. Early the next morning, after the big blowout with Marguerite's father, Sterling, about postponing the wedding, Sadi decided to go apply for their marriage license so that he could prove to him that he was sincere. Right while Sadi was writing a letter to leave for Marguerite, Miss Maisie entered the room and asked him what he was doing. And he told her he was leaving to go a couple towns over so he could apply for their marriage license at the county. He knew it would take at least 3 days to go and come back, so he wanted to get an early start so he could go and come back as soon as possible. He asked Miss Maisie if she would make sure that Marguerite got his letter so that she wouldn't be concerned. Miss Maisie assured him she would make sure Marguerite got the letter, and she told him to be safe and she'd see him soon. As Sadi headed out the door, Miss Maisie tucked the little note into her pocket. Later that day after lunch, Claude found himself surrounded by the little boys of the rooming house, and he was bragging to them about how the men were going to allow him to start working with them on the projects in the community. They were all fascinated by Claude and really wishing that they were older. Although Claude was happy, he really wished Harper was as fascinated with him as the boys were. Later that day, and Janie started to talk to Tracy and Harper about being her assistants because they were both young and really quick, and she would need them to help when it was time for Aunt Charlotte and Violet's babies to come. Later that afternoon, while the men were talking after dinner, Sterling brought up the fact that he thought that Sadi didn't want to marry Marguerite because she was made of clay, and all the men of the community assured him that that was not the case, that Sadi wasn't like that. They all stood up and vouched for Sadi and assured Sterling that he had been in love with Marguerite since the first time he saw her. Albert had been his friend and confidant, and he had never said anything out of the way about Marguerite or ever mentioned her being made of clay. Sterling shared with them that years ago he was in love with a resin girl, and they weren't allowed to get married because he was clay. And he had had problems with Marva's family because some of them were porcelain. Finally, Big Daddy said, "I'm tired of hearing about all of this, and I do understand about how things used to be, but times have changed because almost everyone in this house is polymer. But all this talk about clay dolls, porcelain dolls, resin dolls, at the end of the day, we're all dolls. And our Creator that keeps us loves us all the same." Uncle Benny reminded Sterling that Aunt Vera was porcelain and he was clay, and although they've had challenges, their love prevailed. Even Grandpa spoke up and said, "Sadi loves Marguerite, and he doesn't care what that girl is made of." Meanwhile, back in the pantry, Big Ma advised Violet and Charlotte that they would be relieved of their major duties until after their babies had been weaned, but that she did need them to help her pull together things to give to Marguerite to take as her trousseau on her honeymoon. Just before Marguerite went to sleep that evening, Miss Maisie knocked on her door. Marguerite told her to come in. Marguerite had been quiet all day and a little bit solemn, and Miss Maisie asked her what was wrong. Marguerite said, "Sadi's been gone. I haven't heard from him. I'm worried that he's gone and may not come back after what I said to him." Miss Maisie quickly said, "That's not true. He actually wrote you a note. I've had it in my pocket all day. I forgot to give it to you." Marguerite immediately broke out in a smile. Marguerite quickly unfolded the letter and began to read it, and how Sadi told her, one, how much he loved her, and that he had gone a couple towns over to the county to apply for their marriage license. At that point, she realized how much she really loved him, and she really did want to marry him. After reading Sadi's letter, Marguerite wasn't confident that she wanted to continue to postpone the wedding because at this point she felt like she never wanted to be away from Sadi ever again. She couldn't wait for him to come home so she could tell him she was ready to get married. Miss Maisie hugged Marguerite and kissed her and told her she was really glad she was coming to her senses because Sadi loved her very much and that she shouldn't put him off any longer. Miss Maisie knew that Marguerite loved Sadi, and she knew that allowing Marguerite to feel the distance from Sadi would help her make her decision. Her grandmother tucked her in like she did so many times when she was a little girl. Marguerite fell asleep with Sadi's letter held tightly in her hands. Miss Maisie broke out in a big grin as she left the room, and she could hardly wait for everyone to find out that the postponement was just about over.